Hi, I'm Al Filreis, and I'm in Philadelphia, West Philadelphia, about 8 blocks from the beloved writer's house, which we cannot enter. We haven't, I mean, we can enter, but we can't have programs there. And we were so looking forward when we initially invited Gabrielle Hamilton to be, who is right here, you can see her, to be a Writer's House Fellow, imagining her at the Writer's House with its scene, its writer's scene, not to mention its dining room and kitchen. And we were so excited about it. And we were relatively sad about this having to be remote. But after yesterday, which was such a fabulous day with Gabrielle and the students and Lily and Anna, I think we feel pretty good that it was kind of a close second best. So I want a couple of thank yous and we're going to get started. This is a program that will last a minute or two beyond an hour. So it's really you should be working. Many of you who are watching should be working, or you should be doing in your home cubicle or taking care of some kids or whatever. But here's an hour before lunch to hang out with us. We're so glad that you're doing it. First and foremost, thank you, Gabrielle, for being a Writer's House Fellow. You've been so generous with your time and attention. So thank you.
Effortless.
Thank you very much. And Lily Applebaum, who is the coordinator of Writer's House Fellows, who makes the whole damn thing happen and has for many years. Thank you, Lily, for another amazing season. This was really fun. Thank you.
Thanks, Al. It was my pleasure.
And Zach, sorry, some phony calls coming in. Zach Cardner, who never likes to apparate, is in the background running the virtual Wexler studio and doing an amazing job of directing. It's almost like this is better than television. So thank you, Zach. Paul Kelly, the late Paul Kelly, passed away recently, as in Kelly Writer's House, who has been a patron in the old sense. I feel like in this patron of the arts, who supported the making of the Writer's House, who has supported me personally. I'm the Kelly family professor at Penn, who has cared about the extra curriculum. And he passed away recently, very sadly. And he is the one who came up with the idea of bringing in eminent writers, Writer's House Fellows. It's Paul's idea. So thank you, Paul, and the Kelly family, Nancy, and all the kids. We miss Paul every day. And the students in the Writer's House Fellows Seminar. Thank you all. You were just so great yesterday. So Lily is here. You can see Lily. Lily is not a bot. She's a real person. And you'll see Lily Applebaum in the YouTube chat. There's a whole lot of stuff going on there. We're on a bit of a delay. So I'm looking at the comments and I realize that it's way late, but they're just now responding to the introduction of Lily. Lily will be there and she's going to prompt you to make comments and to ask questions, and she will convey some of them to Gabrielle and me, and we'll try to answer some of your questions. We're going to start with an audience call for response, just to test how alive you are at 11 a.m. Eastern time. God knows what time it is wherever you are, but here's the prompt, okay? So whatever, even if you don't have any questions, here's the prompt. In this book, by the way, I'm just going to hold it up so everybody make sure you buy a copy of this. It's available in paperback. It is not expensive. Good old Random House has made it relatively, what is it, about $16 now, I think, 15, really reasonable. I have a hard copy, but you gotta buy a copy of this and read it. And that's one of our goals today, is to encourage you to read it. All right, your job, if you've read the book or even part of the book, is to post your favorite scene or passage. Just post it and we'll see what comes up. And while you're doing that and generating your own questions, I will begin with a question of mine for Gabrielle. And I was wondering if we could talk about your dad. I'm just going to read a sentence or two from the memoir about your dad. And it's a very generative thing that you say. It's in chapter 1. You describe your dad as, you say, simply because my dad was always so behind, so late, so overextended and ambitious and understaffed, I love that word, on every project, that he was always in desperate need of another pair of hands, even if they were only a 9-year-old pair of girl hands. So clearly, thank God for dysfunctional fathers, in a way, right?
He was the ultimate equal opportunity employer. He was not ageist or sexist or ableist in any way. It's like if you were standing nearby and shit was hitting the fan, you were enlisted to help right the ship and to make the thing go. I once had to drive a woman home from a lunch that he was throwing, and I was, I'm going to say 13. Obviously without a driver's license. He was throwing a luncheon, maybe it was an Easter, and she was overcome with some personal grief that she was having. And he did not like what that was doing to his party. And he was like fuming in the kitchen, like, gotta get her out of here. Get her out of here, get her. And I was like, okay, I'm the hook and I'm gonna get her off the stage. And I had to put her in a car and drive her to her home and kind of, you know, with one hand on her lap, like, I'm sorry, and I don't know what's going, but anyway, I've learned how to drive.
Yeah, I just love, I don't think we can say based on the memoir that your work ethic comes from, the whole of the work ethic doesn't come from him, but this idea that you needed to develop a willingness to be multi-talented, I mean, not even talented, multi-willing to just mess around with things and also to be resourceful. I just love the way he bastes, oh my goodness, the lamb with the following tool. Dips a branch of wood about as thick and long as an axe handle with a big swab of cheesecloth tied at its end into a clean metal paint can. I love the paint can, filled with olive oil, crushed rosemary, and garlic, and big chunks of lemon. You know, that's kind of you. You know, that's you in, I've almost said utero. This is the formation of you. Like, wow, that probably didn't cost much, that tool.
I think I am a direct DNA, you know, chromosomal result of the two of them, and also pathologically, that for all of his dreamy, sort of half-baked, someone else will deal with the details, and the rest of us sort of scurrying around to like, wait, this thing actually needs some architecture, and otherwise the whole thing is going to go in flames. So to have inherited is, oh, we're going to build the fire the night before, and the smoke will be drifting down the meadow as the guests arrive. I inherited all of that.
Yeah.
And then you have the mother who is exceedingly disciplined with her erect ballet dancer posture and her on the number 4, on the count, you know, and you're like, okay. So I think I inherited both of them, plus her intense frugality from her sort of wartime parent mentality. And so it's really a fun thing to have both, to be super generous and dreamy. And
it's a beautiful combo, but I guess, you know, we're going to turn to some of the suggestions first, and then I'll come back with a follow-up question. But I guess there's this this is very powerful, and I have a feeling you're writing, you know, in your subsequent writing, you're dealing with this too. The distance, the disparity between that terrific combo double inheritance and the dysfunction, the despair, the disorientation that resulted from both of those styles, you know, left you essentially alone. So we'll come back to that, but that is a powerful engine for you, it seems to me. And Prune, both Prune and the writing are interesting expressions of that doubleness. Does that make sense to you?
100%. It's so accurately observed. And I think I'm probably going to say this 100 times in our hour, but I love your reading. It's so fun for me.
Thank you. When we come back to another question for me, we're going to look at a recent piece we talked about with the students yesterday, published in September 2018. And that's it's called Spoil Them with a Little Homemade French Fries. This is now you being the parent and your two sons coping with anxiety and current day concerns and your response to it, which strikes me as connected in a way to the overextended dad. So we'll come back to that. Meantime, when I requested from the group that's watching, oh, wouldn't it be great if we were all in the same room so that Gabrielle and I could see your faces? But alas, we're seeing your texts. Favorite scenes. So Kate Levin says the entire chapter about the camp. Kate Levin in New York, dear friend of the writer's house. And Hannah, my own daughter, Hannah, summer camp, the highs and lows and lobsters, and Emma. We might want to explain for the general audience who Emma is. So they're both interested in that camp, so I'll turn it back to you to say anything you want about that, Gabrielle. But I think the thing about the camp chapter to me is it begins with a certain amazement by you, like these people love each other and they're willing to not wash their hair and they're always, hugging each other. And it ends with kind of horror and anger. It's a little ambivalent though. You kind of liked the idea of people being so nice to each other, and then it kind of fell apart.
I have always found myself stopped dead in my tracks to stare at what I consider fully incubated youth. And having not had it, I find it foreign, fascinating. It attracts me and repels me simultaneously. It just sort of, what is that strange thing? You seem to have parents who loved you all the way through and who did their job all the way through. And you seem so relaxed and secure.
Right.
And maybe they hung your paintings up on the refrigerator door. I don't know, but it's anyway, it's just like a foreign country or territory that I am wrapped when I pay attention to, and I don't understand a lot of it. And obviously, sometimes one likes to, or I do. I sort of like, well, fuck all y'all. You know what I did is better. With her cigarette butt out. I'm like, yeah, it was good on the train tracks, walking home alone.
So do I have your permission to overinterpret the summer camp thing?
Yeah. Okay.
Now this could, well, it is an overinterpretation, but why not, right? So your non-chosen family, your biological family, kind of messed with you, and yet it was a formative, fabulous experience, a rich experience, I guess we say. Great, you didn't have any choice, and these were the people you ended up with. And they're complicated and you wouldn't have traded it in for anything, I think, at this point. On the other hand, camp represents the chosen family in a way. These are people who come every summer, the counselors I'm thinking of, even the kids.
Yeah.
And you were the cook, sometimes happy, sometimes grumpy. Where am I going to get the staff and how am I going to get the decent produce delivered to this mountain, Berkshire place? And then looking at these people who genuinely loved each other and kind of let down their guard. And that's the chosen family of summer camps, kind of famous. Summer camps are famous for that. So the overinterpretation is, I think you long for, your chosen family became Prune. These people. How about that?
Not overinterpreted. Spot on. What's your fee? $2.50 an hour? $1.50 an hour?
No, $90 an hour. So that makes sense, right? That's why that camp chapter belongs. I was wondering why it belonged. You threw in lobsters at the end, so it's got some food in it, and sweet Emma, who's Mark Bittman's daughter, is beautiful. But otherwise, you wonder why it's there, and I think it's there because it's like you're going to pick the good stuff out of that communality.
It also revealed to me what a strong maternal instinct I have. And that it was the beginning of recognizing that, I care about small people or people who need care. And then I went and opened Prune eventually, which became, as I have observed on my own without the psychoanalysis, that's a longer lasting family and home front with all the lights on and the bills paid and the maternal figure remaining right in the center of it for 20 more years than my original family ever existed.
And then you made your own little people.
Yeah. So there's a lot of trying to recreate what I lost and to recuperate an experience that I wish I could have had when I wanted to marry the Italian. As I also joked, it's like, was it Michele? Was it Italy? Or actually, was it that huge family with everyone there? And
a matriarchy. It was a matriarchy.
Totally.
Alda is a key character because she really models a family where she can be very distant and dismissive of them. Like, you people are fucking up left and right. Let me do this. But at the same time, she is needed and she needs, and you really got a lot from her, clearly.
And immediately, or in simultaneous tandem, she's like, let me peel the skin off that plum because I know you like your plums without the skin on. And oh, my middle son, he doesn't like the Parmigiano grated. He likes it sliced. And this lasagna is going to be with mozzarella and this one's going to be without, so at the same time, very scolding and, but like, come on over, all your friends can come, everyone comes to Sunday lunch. When you broke a platter, she would say, oh, thank God, I never liked that one anyway. And you would snitch a piece of meat off the platter as she's arranging the meats. And she's like, take another, or you fall asleep in the chair after Sunday lunch. And she just takes the pen out of your hands, and doesn't wake you up or make you do chores like some others I know.
I love that. And everybody fears her, but you went in and rearranged the kitchen in the old villa, and that everybody was worried. And she came in and said, this is much better. And that's a big breakthrough, I think.
She and I.
Yeah, seriously. You're both mama at the very end of the book. So Kate Levin is back suggesting another scene, which is what we just talked about. She writes, this time your relationship with your ex-mother-in-law, your mother-in-law, really moved me. Kate asks, has she passed away? What are the traditions, et cetera, of hers that are still part of your life?
Yes, she has passed a long while ago. And the traditions are, there's a lot of dishes that I cook that are hers for sure. And they're just, this is Alda's zucchini, and we just make it this way all the time, which is mostly about just boiling almost to death. Not to death, it's actually a misnomer. To have well-boiled vegetables and to steep them in olive oil. And I wish I had her olive oil, but
they still make their own olive oil, or is that stopped?
They do, and it'll be really interesting. My children inherited the property, and in the exact same terms that Michele inherited the property from Nonna. So when it's very Italian, right? Your mother lives there until she passes, and then it's yours, but it's hers as long as she's alive. And it's Michele's as long as he's alive.
Because he's the eldest?
Because they had so much property that every kid got a goddamn house.
Oh my gosh. So the villa, villa is your son?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, wow. I love that. Okay. So I'm going to ask the people watching on YouTube to do another lightning round thing. And then I'm wondering if you and I, it's a little early, but we have our coffee. I wonder if you and I can do a lightning round back and forth. So this is it. Favorite minor character. Can't be a major character. Alda is obviously a major character. Michele is a major character. Minor character, not just in the memoir, but in any of the columns. Any. So while we're waiting for people to catch up, because there's a delay, I'll throw out one and then I'll ask you for a favorite minor character, Gabrielle. And you can decline to do this.
It's not that I don't decline this, but I just want you to know that lightning and my name don't go together. I'm like, did you mean frozen molasses? That I can do.
Okay, let's do a round of frozen molasses. All right. And you can pass every time until you think of a good one. So I would say that my favorite minor character is from one of your New York Times columns, the so-called older dame on the airplane who orders a double Smirnoff on the rocks with Doritos. That's a pretty good minor character.
Oh, love
And
it.
I, just to make sure people who didn't write, it's a column. It's October 19th, 2016 for people who want to.
It's my first column. It was my first essay for the New York Times, and I needed to introduce myself.
Oh, how cool.
What can you expect from me? And that's why I wanted to introduce that lady, because she's everything that is right.
Yeah, she's off first column. Cool, because you're somewhat un-PC there.
Right.
You introduce Ashley in the second paragraph or the third paragraph. You're like, you are who you are from the get-go. Pretty cool.
That's what I had to do. I wanted to say, like, just so you know, this is what you're going to get in this column. And she was a good one, that lady.
So your turn. You have a minor character you like?
Well, I think I'll keep in character with my, crotchety, negative side, but I am often inspired negatively of what I don't want to be or who I don't want to be. And
Right.
there's a guy who features in, I won't be able to remember which column,
Okay.
but he has a kid and he dresses the child in black t-shirts only and brings the 2-year-old child to Prune and is very proud that the 2-year-old or the 3-year-old or the 4-year-old, as the child ages, is like, yes, asked for the monkfish liver. And it was excruciatingly painful every time to watch this dude's insecurities about his own coolness being forced through a child who, what's wrong with pink or red or yellow t-shirt for a 3-year-old child? Or like a banana to eat. But that he kept saying like, wow, yes, she only eats monkfish liver and wears AC/DC t-shirts. I was like, oh. So it's a favorite minor character for me.
I love it. There's one been suggested in the chat, and then I'll throw another one out, and maybe you'll have one more, and we'll move on to a question about a deep topic, which is children fearing school shooters. Yikes. So there are two that have been suggested from the group. One is the Misty, the mentor in Michigan. Great character. She's almost a major character, actually. Great character. And the other from Jackie Lubeck is the, oh gosh, yeah. This is in the Times piece about closing down Prune during the pandemic, which is a young woman. I think she's youth. Imagine her to be 19. She's a pain in the ass. She calls like the day after you're closing down. Is there going to be brunch? Is there going to be brunch? And then she comes back at the end. I have it here. She comes back and you really let her have it. You really let her have it at the end.
I bring her back in fantasy.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah. Let me see if I can find it. It's worth looking for.
The phone still rings at Prune with, and I don't answer, but it's
the girl. This is quoting this piece and Lily's doing such a great job of putting links in the chat, so everybody's getting. Lily, you're amazing. So the girl who called about brunch the first day we were closed probably lives there. This is now in the East Village, now that it's been gentrified. She is used to having an Uber driver pick her up exactly where she stands at any hour of the day. A gel mani-pedi every 2 weeks, and award-winning Thai food delivered to her door by a guy who braved the sleet, having attached oven mitts to his bicycle handlebars to keep his hands warm. But I know she would be outraged if charged $28 for a Bloody Mary. Oh, that guy delivering from that fancy Thai food in the winter of pandemic.
I do regret that in the work, there's so many negative examples of ladies. If you want to do a deep analysis, Al, I'll do it for you. Like,
You please.
but it's such a bummer for me when the ladies are bad and I have to report them as they were. And,
Right.
or it's my own fixation, but I'm like, that guy who is from Nepal and is got his hands in the mittens on his bike. And she's like, where's my Uber driver? Like that.
Yeah.
Don't be that way.
And what a winter it was for restaurants that decided to try to deliver, to use the third party entities or to do it themselves, and obviously to underpay the people doing the delivery. So it's kind of an unfair stroke because you don't know that she actually does that, but you were surmising. But it's also, it expresses your frustration and anger at the situation.
And it's certainly a composite truth of what I've seen, of the behavior I see all the time. So it was fantastically collapsed into one human, but not without real research, you know what I'm saying? Real
sure, yeah.
Research experience.
That person stands in for many, many people who clearly aren't examining their privilege. And in the pandemic, in relation to restaurants, I mean, there's a great alternate scene where someone is being impolite to you in the restaurant, doesn't realize you're the owner and, you know, VIP, and I don't know, what does she want you to do? She wants you to find a place to put her hat, or she just asks you to do something and you at first want to say, fuck you. And then you think, hey, you know, I'm here to, I don't know what. It's just a very generous.
It was very early on at Prune, like in the first year or something. And I was having an out of body experience where people would just come up to the past and just say like, oh my God, this is so great. You're so great. And I was like, oh my God, this is so, and then, you know, a few months into it, I was like, okay, I'm getting used to it. And started to like believe it. And then this lady came up with her like empty cocktail glass and her dirty crumpled napkin or whatever it was.
Well, that's what it was. Yeah.
And she came up and I was like, oh, I know what's going to happen. And I thought she was going to like give me compliments about the sweetbreads or something. And instead she was like, can you put this somewhere? And then she wiped her fingers on my little chef sleeve. Yeah. Her greasy fingers. And I was like, whoa.
But you accepted that as reality. You accepted that as adjustment.
So this is what I'm here to do in a way. And also I loved her, or I brought myself to love her. Like, I'm just trying to figure it out here and I need to put this down and this will do. And it just seemed very comfortable.
Yeah. I just want to pass along a comment that was made just now. And then I want to ask you about the kids, the boys and the home fries and your son's plan to kind of make it harder for the school shooter. Kind of following from your dad, the overextended dad. But first this comment. I read the Prune article at 1 a.m., 6 days after I laid off 65 people, says a person whose handle is Malgang. I can't pronounce it and I apologize. I read that Prune article at 1 a.m., 6 days after I laid off 65 people. It spoke so loudly to me and it also destroyed me. I sent it to anyone who told me they couldn't imagine what I was going through.
I just got goosebumps.
It's hard to do it.
Immense. It was, I mean, I really hear you.
But you provided this person through the writing of that.
Yeah, I think it was a very widely circulated essay and it applied to anyone in all their industries, not just in ours, and what it is to take care of a group of people that you care about and to have to send them out and to no longer be who you were on a dime. And oh my goodness. I mean, it just started a year's worth of radical examination, I would say, and upheaval.
This person follows up, it was so beautifully written. And I will add that I think it was one of the first thoughtful pieces that wasn't directly about, it was about the economics of the situation, but not directly. It wasn't an, Times article. It wasn't a piece of reportage. It was an essay about how it felt.
Oh,
And it was probably the first. You must have gotten a huge
Al,
response.
are you the most perfect reader of all time? It's unreal. So I specifically was numbed out on think pieces.
Yeah.
And also, I don't consider myself qualified to write a think piece. And
Right.
I, of course, had spoken to perhaps, let's say, 30 of my colleagues across the country at every echelon of like, I know a gal who does a takeout taco place. I have all the fine dining chefs. I've got a Midwest, whatever. So I had obviously spoken with everyone, and I was starting to put this piece together, and everyone mistook me, who I spoke to. They were like, oh, you should talk to this person because they're very good with the politics of that and the statistics of this. And I was like, goodbye, everyone. I'm writing a feeling piece. We have done enough thinking, analyzing, politicizing. I'm like, we must have our feelings. And these are the feelings. And so it was, you're right. It was a feel piece, not a think piece. And I wanted it to be both an elegy,
Yeah.
a eulogy, not a eulogy. I don't know if we were dying or not, but some sort of like anthem and elegy at the same time.
I think I would call it a pre-elegy, because you're not claiming to know how it's going to work out.
Yeah.
And there's plenty to be elegiac about at that point, but you're also, we were talking last night about the use of the word still. Gotten a lot of email about that word still, because still, in addition to the three meanings that we accrued last night, it also means whereas, like, but still, right?
Yeah.
And that's probably the best reading of it. This was actually Lily's dad, Erwin, who gave me that reading. I love that, because you're basically saying, I have ideation about what I made. I have ideas. I have imagination about it. And that is a remediative, but still, I am still thinking about all you people. This is not something.
It's funny. I was thinking so much about our group meeting yesterday, and at the end, just I was not doing a good job quickly, but I hope I made my plea ongoingly for like insistent tenderness and resolute weakness, if you will. And as you know, I'm not a big I don't have huge affiliations with groups like all the ladies or all the chefs, or like I sort of I'm not tribal in any way. I'm just sort of, if there is a tribe of mine, it's resolute tenderness, steadfast humanity and intelligence, and I don't care what body that takes place in. And so I think that's what I meant with and yet, or but still, or I'm still thinking, like, you can take us down and you cannot give a shit about us, and it can be, the world can go on in its capitalistic way, and I insist on tenderness and intelligence.
So whereas once you thought that had to be expressed by creating the space in which semi-unplanned humane relationships could be fostered, a small restaurant, you now are beginning to realize, starting with that piece, I think especially, that it can be that sociality can be produced in an article. And this person, whose name I can't read because it's a handle, is affirming that there were people laying off people who read that piece outside the restaurant business because it was written a certain way with that softness and sensitivity that you're talking about. So you're a badass, former badass, who can write this humane sentence.
It's so funny and so interesting, and that's very nice. I was hired this year to guest edit the Best American Food Writing of this year, and because of certain biases I thought I might have, not about gender, race, or class or anything like that, but about outlet, that I thought I might be against like a blog as opposed to the New
Right.
Yorker. So what I did is I redacted all the names and all the outlets and read the 190 pieces blind.
Cool.
And I came, so I'm reading and I'm on like my 30th one and I'm like, hey, this is mine.
Wait, yours was one of them?
Whoever, the big editor, Sylvia, had sent me the 90 to choose from of the 25 that would make it into the final book. And I was like, cool. Hey, this is mine. And I rejected it, not for conflict of interest, but I thought, actually, this doesn't have enough food in it to merit inclusion in Best American Food Writing 2020. It's not about food. It's too general.
That's right. Yeah. That's very funny. Very interesting. So let's turn to, we started by talking about your dad being overextended, so late, so over his head, and dysfunctional in making things happen that you became someone who pitched in. And then in Spoil Them with homemade French fries, and the link will go into the chat. I'm sure Lily will do it. This is what it looks like printed out. It's not very helpful, is it? And here you have your two sons. One at this point is 12, another is 14. The 12-year-old is running for student council. And his whole platform is, I'm going to create a curtain that will cover the windows of the classroom so that a school shooter will have a harder time seeing the kids. The older son, the 14-year-old, thinks it's ridiculous. And the 12-year-old defends his plan and says, I think there's a question about you'll never get the money, the budget. And the little one, who might as well be your dad, says, then I'll do it with paper and tape. I can do it on the cheap. I don't need the money, just the authority to fix the problem. Now you at this point, as the mom, writer, can-do daughter of your dad, this is what you say. I'm going to ask you to respond to this. You allow, meaning you're writing about yourself in the second person there. You allow for some debate here, the kids. It buys you time to recover and for their apparent nonchalance over the fact of school shooter drills to have some contagion on your own despair. Do you mind saying a little bit about that despair and how amazing it is that the kids kept arguing and bought you a little time to recover as the adult in the room?
I mean, so
it's tough, yeah.
I haven't quite, and hope I never will, get used to the fact that my fucking kids have school shooter drills. Like that's, and I understand that there's generations that had get under your desk air raid drills, but I don't really care to say like, well, we've done it before, so it's cool now too. Like, I'm still gonna well up and protest that's not right. I don't want that to happen. So yeah. I couldn't believe the nonchalance with which my children were metabolizing this in their own bodies, to the point they were like, oh, you're never gonna get the money for that, and you dope, and that they were being this sort of perfectly on time, age appropriate themselves without any of what I was going through. And it allowed me to carry on. It brought me back to the shore. I was like, well, they don't seem freaked out about it, except, I was paying attention as a mother does. You just sort of out of the corner of your eye, make sure your kid's following you down the sidewalk, or, you don't hover, but you clock. And, I was just noticing on Leone, his little picking his cuticles and all these like bloody fingertips.
Right, it's in the piece. He's clearly exhibiting anxiety.
Yeah, that's got a little anxiety, and also that he suddenly wants to run for student council on a single issue platform, which is, I just want some curtains on the room. And if I may say, now that I'm talking about, Oh my God, that kid. He's so fucking smart and he's so efficient. He's like, I don't want to rechange the drill. He's like, why do you let the school shooter in the building, but then leave the window on the door completely open? And you've got us all huddled in the corner on the rug, sitting there like lame ducks. And his point is obscure the view.
Right. And how
So smart.
how powerful and frightening it is that a 12-year-old understands that all he needs is the authority to fix the problem, not the fucking money. And you, the daughter of your dad who was overextended and not able to, but he could do the curtains, your dad, right? That's the one thing he would have been really good at. He's kind of like grandpa was kind of channeled here. And it seems to me that there are two ways to read this piece, because, by the way, it's about French fries. It's
right.
It's a New York Times piece that's in the whatever eat section.
Right. It's a food column. Don't forget who hired me and who pays my rent is.
It's a food column. All of your editors and friends at the Times are watching this. We are all pro that column, but it's a food column about French fries, and we are well past halfway through it. Before two things happen, please respond to this doubleness again. On one hand, you are verklempt. What am I supposed to do? French fries? That's ridiculous. I'm just a food column writer, and these kids are going to take over the world that's fucked up, but I'm nobody, and the French fries thing is secondary. And at the same time, this is exactly what we all need to be doing. If he's biting his cuticles and having to worry about school shooters, let's make the food that will provide comfort. It's the only thing we can do.
Yeah, I used to think that for a long time I had a low self-esteem about food writing and its possibilities. And I think I don't know if it's natural, and I don't care. It's what I had. I had a sort of sense of like, oh, I'm in a ghetto. I'm in like the food world ghetto, and I want to be a real writer and an important writer. And Sam Sifton at the Times really helped me out, and he helped me forever, and I'll never forget it. That he was like, actually, not everyone reads the front page, and not everyone reads the front page of this paper, and everyone reads the food section. And that, for me, I was like,
yeah, that's a big thing.
Trojan horse, man. You think it's French fries, it's Grand Aioli, it's whatever it is, but I'm just trying to pack all of my writerness in, hopefully without one of the greatest perils of food writing is that we overburden the poor little plate of food with the writer's ambitions. And it's just a balancing act. I'm always trying to not fall off the tight wire there of please, can I write about bigger things than French fries? But at the same time,
it's this gorgeous.
I have to write about French fries.
It's almost like this.
Make them.
To bring Freud back into it. FYI, Freud was mentioned last night. It's like the psychopathology of everyday life for the parent. Like, you're worried. You're not worried enough. Your nonchalance is taking the edge off of my despair. I'm going to make French fries for not a week, a year. I'm going to buy. What did you buy? You bought a freezer.
Just freezer.
I mean, this is like game to be psychoanalytically understood. Like, mom, no control. The only thing she can control is she makes some great fries and can do it for a whole year. Oh, that is love, right? Isn't that love?
As I also feel strongly about the dinner table not being a place of battle between you and your children. And, we load the dinner table up, the family dinner table, with so much freight also about what it's supposed to cure in the family and in society. And I just think that, at least in my circle, like, parents get very uptight about what their kids are eating. And I highly recommend that they stop that.
Yeah. I think everybody knows that's true. Yeah. I think people know it's true, but it's important to hear it from you. I'd like to invite Lily to join us. I know Lily has a really great question she wants to ask you. Oh, there's Lily. You're so fast. People come and go so quickly here. And and then I have a question, kind of a downer question about just the moment, the reason why you went to Europe when you were 19, 20, which is key to chapter 8 of the memoir. So I want to get back to that. And then at the very end, I want to talk about your fabulous similes, metaphors, and figures, which are just hilariously crazy and over the top. And I think it might be a fun way to end. Lily, you have 2 questions. Pick one. I think we just kind of covered one of them, the freight of the plate. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'm glad I'm getting in before the downer question comes up.
Sorry, Lil. Did I set you up? I'm sorry.
No, I genuinely am expressing that genuinely. But my question, since, especially now that we're talking about the columns, we as a class read your column on Rizi e Bizi, which I hope you feel free to correct my Italian. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly.
So
Thank you so much. And one thing I really connected with in that column was your discussion of authenticity to a classic recipe versus publishing your version of it. And I think there's a moment where you're like, maybe I should have called it this really long name that's more descriptive, but it's more fun to say Rizi e Bizi, and this is, I'm bravely kind of publishing my version. So that's like one idea of authenticity in the food world. But then we talked a lot in class yesterday about kind of excavating for a truth to yourself in your writing. And you use the term clean, as in like clean and true. So I was just identifying 2 different models of authenticity there. And I think I definitely know which one you prefer, but I'm just curious to hear you talk about conflicting authenticity ideas in food writing.
yeah, I'll never answer that and don't wish to. I don't mean your question. I mean, what's authentic and who's allowed to have it, and should we be preserving the tradition exactly as it is, or are you allowed to branch out? Is it restrictive, claustrophobic? Is it xenophobic in certain ways to not allow influence to come? And also, is it one of the things that I can and do argue and live both sides all the time? And so if there was any clean and true part of that essay, is that I told you the exact truth. I'm filled with conflict. I'm filled with hypocrisy. And who is the philosopher that said, like, that's to hold 2 conflicting and in fact self-canceling views at the same time is like, you're alive. I mean, I think that might be a Fitzgerald quote, but come on, help me out, you academic people. I know I read it at one point. Is that Nietzsche? And also, just before we get to the dark and we stay in the fun, I have to admit, I've started to have a little bit of a, it's really fun to dick around with the readers, the commenters. Because the comments page of the New York Times cooking section is bonkers, super bonkers to me. And now it's become sport. And so I can't wait almost to see, for one thing, what happens is, they go online, and let's say they go online at midnight or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, whenever the people put them online, 2:04, at 2:04, 4 minutes later, you've got 30 people on there saying, well, you know what I do? I make it this way, and I put this, and you're just like, would you just try the recipe the way I wrote it once, just to see? And or they say, like, whatever. There's, as I used to say about, is it Yelp? Like, it's just dogs barking out in the yard, and you're like, if you just dogs barking out there and pay no attention. But now sometimes it's fun to go out to the back fence and just sort of like throw meat to the dogs.
The populace in the chat is applauding this. Troll the trolls, yes.
So fun.
Lee. And Alley Katz reminds us that it's Whitman who talks about containing multitudes. Yeah. Let me read you from the response to a couple of the responses to that article, which by the way was published on April 14th, 2021, right, Lily? It's the most recent one, I think, probably, or close to the most recent. Here's someone named Discourse, posting as Discourse from Vienna, writes, a long-winded way, that's probably the wrong accent, but anyway, a long-winded way to explain a simple dish. Very Italian. By the way, very Italian refers to the long-windedness, I think. Overselling as usual. Jane Fairfax from San Francisco responds, Discourse, yes, that is what this column does. It explores a particular aspect of a dish in gorgeously rich and fanciful prose. The recipe is at the end. I suppose a true chef would prefer just to scroll down, but I can't cook and I love to read a well-written piece, even if the point is only to add some joy to my day, rather than actually culminate in cooking or eating. Like channeling you. You may have actually been pretending to be Jane Fairfax. That's like perfect. To which Caitlin M. from Michigan writes, also responding to Discourse from Vienna, along with cooking and eating, writing about food may be what we do best. So there's good stuff.
There's a person who I believe, I'm not quite sure what's not functioning for this person, but who has not figured out that there's an essay and a recipe every month. And what they do, it's the same person, it might be Mr. Vienna, who complains that there's too much story.
Right.
Just get to the recipe. And I don't know why they haven't understood that there's a whole place where we just cut to the chase and you don't have to read the effing story. And then I'm paid, that's what I'm paid to do. I have to write a story. And so this is what I get paid to do every month. I got to write the story, the recipe, and a brief head note.
Yeah. And
you don't have to, you can have one or the other. You can have both. You can have
that's
none.
right.
It's very
well, Mr. Discourse in Vienna is also ignoring that French fries are not the point. And school shooters are the point, and parenting. So, you know, his loss. Lily, thank you for that question. I'm glad we got to that piece. So let's turn finally to we're going way back to when you're 19 or 20 and it's chapter 8 and you're about to start the long flashback to the trip in Europe. The situation in the present tense of the memoir is you're looking at the Prune site and thinking maybe you will open a restaurant. And then you have this long flashback. And the flashback begins on page 117 for those of you out there who have a copy of the book. And I just want to look at a couple of things you say. I mean, this is about it's kind of a euphemistic description of suicidal thoughts at that moment in your life. And you say, all that sitting on the woodpile, that aimless autumn, imagining the death of everything, from garden tomatoes to small animals to the mailman. It's pretty funny. That time I loathed and despaired of the self I had become, whatever self that was, so hastily cobbled together in an emergency. I had something persuasive. Those gloomy thoughts at dusk, with the cigarettes turned from thoughts of my own death, which I, an otherwise healthy and robust and well-mannered 19-year-old, couldn't in good conscience accomplish, to significantly politer thoughts of disappearing. So instead of killing yourself, you disappeared to Europe, which is, Gabrielle, in the service of finding what you would become. It's oblivion. Europe is oblivion, disappearing from the family dysfunction or whatever. And that's where you get all the experiences that form Prune. That's the way that chapter is set up. I know that you've been thinking a lot about depression and suicidal thoughts, not for you yourself, just as a general issue. I wondered if you would comment on that as the origin of the trip that made your restaurant. Kind of an interest. I mean, I reread that and thought, boy, Gabrielle at 19 was really depressed.
Wow.
Yeah.
You are the best. The best. And I'm so happy to hear this again, this this self I had become, whatever self that was, so hastily cobbled together in an emergency.
Yeah.
It's true, because the family ended when I was 10, 11, and it really ended. So there was a very like, okay, so who am I and how do I go? And you put yourself together in this way. Listen, Blood, Bones, and Butter is the perfect tithing to my family church book. And Blood, Bones, and Butter is filled with everything buttery, bloodliney, of the bones of my family, of my DNA, all the delicious, the glitter, the lamb roast, the smoke, the dry ice machine, the parties, it's everything that was beautiful, delicious, romantic, even with harshness in there, even with harshness. And now that I have put enough money in the plate of the church of my family, there's so much that's not written here. And that's what I'm working on. And I do have the actual suicide death of my oldest brother that has prompted me to really cock my head. And he's not my only dead sibling, and he's not my only, the family is in such a state of demise in terms of who doesn't speak with each other. And it's just a dead fruit. And that has made me look at the tree, because the fruit rotten on the ground describes the tree. And that's what I'm doing in this next book, is what is this strange tree that keeps dropping its fruit too early and under sort of weird circumstances, and they're all dead. And yet, anyway, so it's a sort of examination of what's not in this book. And it's too late. I am who I am. So I am still luscious and still funny. And I still have all of those selves that I became through, the years. And so the dark book that's coming actually has a lot of humor in it, even though there's, a man hanging dead from a tree branch in it.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is that this book, if one reads it from that tilted angle, I think you just a minute ago tilted, it's there. It's there, as you cannot open Prune in writing without going back to that low point, depression and disappearance to Europe. And then in Amsterdam at a cafe, which should have been the best moment ever, the cold ham sandwich on a good buttered, grainy bread, the warm salted potato, and the wedge of Gouda that had aged so much it was gritty. There's your aesthetic right there, the grittiness, becomes a key bar snack at this great place, this great restaurant you create. So it should be, and you describe it here as the best thing you've ever tasted, ever. Simple, salted, warm boiled potato could ever taste as good as this tasted, probably none. And your response on that page is to be bummed out further. You say, it should have been an expansive state of deep satisfaction, but instead I sat in that cafe, became heavy and defeated. Yes, I had wanted to leave everything behind. That's euphemism for suicide. But the sharp and creamy cheese, the starchy warm potatoes somehow made it starkly apparent how weary and lonely and physically uncomfortable one could become in exile.
You're the greatest reader of all time. I have not read this closely in ever, I don't think. And what I think I'm telling you is that what I was taught about memoir, memoirs are a scary category.
Yes.
And it's been disparaged and savaged as a category in all the publications that I read, the New York Review of Books, you know, remember 20 years ago or so reading like every memoir is written by Mimi. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so it's already, you know, you're considered sort of loose with the family secrets and unreliable, and your memory sucks, and you're score settling, and you're doing, anyway. So the thing is that I didn't go to Europe because I was depressed. And I was depressed, but there were some precipitating events between my father and myself, and that took my heart out of just took the life out of my body.
Oh.
And also involving the brother and a sister and all kinds of things. And it's like, oh, I have to check out. I can't be alive if this is how people treat each other. Like, I can't be alive. And yet I was also raised by these people, and I'm very polite, and I think of the others, and I was like, I can't have the mailman find me, you know, hanging in my apartment. And you know, my friends at work, my busboys and my waiters, they're like, I was a waiter or a bartender. I was like, that would shock them. So what can I do?
Yes.
I'll get out of here. So that's the just, if we're in the writer's room and we're going to talk about writing as opposed to food or cooking or just being a human being, I will say, like, I have now taken all the savagings of the critics of the form that I happen to work in, and I do write first person personal essay with the personal pronoun, and all I do is take the savaging critics, and I now pull a chair up for them next to my desk, and I just turn and I'm like, how's this one? Am I doing better? You know, as I'm writing, I'm like, too confessional? How am I doing with the family secrets here? Good. Yeah. It's like, is this manly enough for you? Is this intellectual enough for you? You know, and I just meet the critic who's inside my body to my satisfaction, while saying, hey, your way is actually not so great, and I have a couple ideas of my own that you should know, and I'm going to do it this way. So that's the job of myself, or the way I see it is, don't take the lady out of me, don't take the tender out of me, don't turn me into a think piece when I want to be a feel piece, and I'm going to continue to insist on these. Does that make sense? These
it does make sense
that you criticize, and I won't mishandle them. That's the thing. Like, you do see a lot of it poorly done, and I totally understand. But that's like saying, you know, poetry sucks because you see some very bad poetry, or you see some very bad modern dance, and you're like, oh. But you can't just like say, well, there's, you know, dance is stupid, or poetry is stupid, or memoir is like, you know what I'm saying?
I do, and my reaction is to revive, not necessarily for us to discourse on it because we did yesterday twice, but to revive the beautiful food writing analog, which is so crucial here, by thinking that the constraint of the form of writing about your life is the same constraint of the form of the restaurant you created. You broke the form in several ways. And the carryover of the Gouda and the potato into that broken form, into the form that's resistant, happens in the writing, which came after, many years after the creation of Prune. And you will not allow yourself to have the cliche of, I was alone in Amsterdam, but then I had the best Gouda and boiled potato ever, and things, that's where Prune got born. No, Prune got born out of the contradictory feelings of, this is the best potato I've ever tasted, I'm alone and I'm sad. That is really hard. And I think about a comment made by Jamie Lee Jocelyn in the forum, and I'll just read it. As someone also from a complicated family that has faced loss by suicide, and having thought and also written, Jamie Lee's a writer, about how grief and joy can be felt simultaneously, I look forward to this next book.
I love the, thank you, and great, and I'll do my best, and I hope you like it. And I was gonna bond with that person on the language that we are allowed to use now, and we call it complicated.
Mm.
With your
Complicated,
complicated family, and it's a euphemism that we're all allowed to use at this time.
Mm. Beautifully said. And I will just plug Jamie Lee Jocelyn, who has a series and a podcast called Dead Parents Society, where she invites people who write about their parents' early demise to read their stuff. And I have a feeling you'll hear from Jamie Lee.
I mean, is it all right that I'm giggling because it's such a good title?
Isn't Dead Parents Society the best?
It's so funny. I've always wanted to have form a group of people who don't speak to their parents anymore. I don't know what I would name it though. It would be really funny, but like every time I'm in like a book signing, when people come up in the book signing line and like, you don't talk to your mom and you don't, and I'm just like, do you want me to comfort you? About, okay.
Yeah, but I mean, responding to someone wanting to have their book signed, but really wanting to tell you about their own parents is similar to your being in the restaurant and taking the crappy napkin from the lady who you thought was going to praise you. Well, look, we're going to end by my instead of just thanking you, I'm going to quote two of my favorite fabulous figure similes. And you are so over the top with your figuration that I don't know how you pull it off. That
the sport, it's so fun. We should speak in metaphor the whole time.
You're really good at them and you cross the line, which is great. Last night we were talking about the quiche, and you were talking about building a cathedral and you put the word cheesy in there, which is just like, you shouldn't do that. But my favorites are from the memoir. You're like 12 years old. Your mom takes you to Greece. You're bombed on beer. And you go back to the hotel or the B&B. And in your drunken state, you overhear a donkey outside the window braying in that train tracks on steel rails way. That is totally what a 12-year-old drunken girl would hear the braying. Like, what do I know? But and the other one I love is really kind of unafraid and a little sick. It's a little like over the top. This is the lambs. These are the lambs, head to toe, the way you'd put a bunch of kids having a sleepover to bed. That is so beautifully ghoulish and so predictive of the difficult relationship. I mean, your dad's doing this amazing thing, but it's as if he's slow cooking the kids on a sleepover. Isn't that amazing?
Well, when you have to fit 3 kids in one bed,
I know you knew all about it. And you were thinking that you might as well crawl on that spit and just get cooked right there and then.
Listen, man, that's how I was formed. It was intensely warm and magical.
Yeah.
And it was right up against. It was also violent and very, very rough.
And isn't it amazing how a figure, how a conceit, how a simile can carry all that without you really knowing it fully?
Well, the thing that's so fun is, like, I feel like you're the only one who got it. And you're the only one I'm talking to anyway. So you were taught in school, like, just write to the highest mind. And you just put it in there. You just drop them in and you're like,
well,
all the people I meet, they're like, I don't know why you don't talk to your, whatever anymore. I'm like, oh, it's right in there if you see it.
Well, I volunteer to always be that good reader. Gabrielle Hamilton, the last 2 days, you've outrageously complimented me and the students and Lily, which has been so great. We love it. We're blushing. But we also want just to thank you. Kay Feeney, who has been watching this, just writes something about Prune that kind of generally expresses our gratitude. I just have to say, writes Kay Feeney, that my family and I, along with some friends, had the most moving and beautiful restaurant meal of our lives at Prune in April of 2018. So that thanks is about the food and the restaurant, but also our thanks is for your writing, without which we wouldn't have invited you to the writer's house, It's not the food house or the restaurant house. You're a writer and you belong in the writer's house. And I just want to extend to you an ongoing invitation to come and hang out with us when we open again the actual house in September. Gabrielle, thank you.
I'll be out. I'm driving out. I'm bringing food. We're cooking.
Oh my God.
And I'm pulling a chair up next to you and your class.
Oh, that will be so much fun.
And Lily, she's going to be working for me by then. So I think we're
Lily, will you apparate again so you can get some kudos? There you are. Lily, you're the best. Thank you so much. And you just heard what Gabrielle said.
Thank you.
And to Zach Gardner, to everyone who watched, and to everyone who will watch this as a recording, hello to you in the future. We can't wait to see what Gabrielle Hamilton does in her writing in the future. Zach Gardner, thank you for doing the tech. And thanks to all of the people who support Writers House Fellows. Have a great day. We said an hour, it's an hour and 15. Oh well, your lunch is a little late. Bye-bye, be well.
Thank you, everyone.